Happy Sunday. Doing things a little bit differently this week than I've been doing in the past. We are taking this weekly broadcast into a more closed setting for clients. Originally, why am I on Twitter? Originally, I got on Twitter because I had several clients who quit Facebook in 2016, and I had to find other ways to connect with them. I also thought, in the wake of the 2016 election, that Facebook was probably going to cease to exist pretty soon. Glad I didn't short that stock. I was a little bit wrong. They still here. And I wanted to, thinking of that this might be my last time doing a live stream for this purpose on Twitter, because my Twitter is, no, you wouldn't know. I need to change the description in there. It still links to the description that I had back when I started the company. But this is account by any stretch of the imagination. When, I guess to back up and kind of guide us through this current moment, and before I get into the Q&A, that I needed a Twitter account to reach all of my clients in order to do this time last year, thought I'd start with this. It's what so many people are saying right now. So I was having dinner with a friend a couple of days ago. If someone who's known me so long, they still call me Mary Catherine and know the hyphen belongs in there. And first thing out their mouth when they walked through the door was, "It's over, right? I can go back to following you on Twitter," which is funny because no one in my former life ever talks about Twitter, let alone my Twitter. I was known for Facebook, not for anything else. And I wasn't quite sure how to respond to that. This person has quite a bit of privilege, which, privilege is, it is what it is. Can't blame a person for having it. We can low-key judge them for how they use it. And I looked back at him and I said, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm more afraid of that than I am anything else right now, that it's over, that's exactly what people are thinking. And he watched me get ready to do my security thing for all my protest kids. And he was like, "Are you still having to do that today? It's over." I said, "No, it's not over. The biggest danger right now is all the people who think that we've been having a party all summer and that the protest is now going to be a party there, that it's safe to join us. Then these people, moderates, liberals, Democrats, don't understand what this movement's about because they really haven't been paying attention. And they're the biggest danger to everyone right now because they still think, in spite of everything, that if Proud Boys show up, armed militias, Trump supporters with guns, that the police are going to help them. They're going to call the police into this situation and they're going to get people hurt. That is what I'm afraid of." He just looked at me like, "So what do you guys want then?" And I shut the conversation down at that point because this is the same person who's known me for 30 years and I'm only 42. Really, it's a long time to know someone for 30 years. And I said, when I started this, when this sort of became a thing that ran away with me, earlier this year, the same person cautioned me, "Mary Catherine, you only just got your life back together," which sounds a little dramatic if you were to ask me. But what he's referring to is 2016. In 2016, I had this hobby, this dare, this anger that I channeled into my inability to find a run coach because they fat shamed me. I couldn't find a coach who wanted to work with me. Didn't ask anything about my history. They just judged me by looking at me at that moment and said no. And I set out to become the coach I wanted to hire. And then accidentally, it became a viable business. It became its own revenue source. And for once, people paid me to open my mouth instead of shut it. And it was kind of incredible. And I knew what I wanted to do with that was create a safe space in this industry that's also a sport, that's also a hobby, for people who don't want to have to deal with diet culture and don't want to feel pressure to lose weight or be productive or, do all the things. I just want to jog and I want to keep going. And I don't want to have to make it this big pressure-filled production in order to stay. And I don't want to compete with the people around me because I know I'm going to lose. I just need a different way of doing things. And I said, I have that. I'm not an athlete either. What we're going to do is protect your fitness for life and your sanity as well. Come here. What threatened all that in 2016 was an election. And back then I had office hours where I would sit and I would take phone calls just like my college professors would do for 2 to 3 hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and occasionally for teachers, low-key on the weekends. And these had gone from questions about running to explanations of how do I keep running right now? I'm so scared. This new president is going to destroy my family. I was coaching mostly women at the time. I have a transgender child. I'm scared. I am afraid that my adopting my children who are as mine as far as I'm concerned since the day they were born, but they came out of my wife's body, so they're not actually mine in the eyes of the law. I'm afraid that won't last. I'm afraid of so many things. I had a woman two women actually tell me, no one knows I'm Muslim, but I'm Muslim. I'm just not brown. And I don't know how to tell people without them thinking that I've cheated them in some way. I'm really scared of what's going to happen. All of a sudden, my office hours went from technical type questions about running from runners who really weren't that serious to I haven't been running. How do I deal with this? And the answer was, I don't know. I don't know. The collective anxiety started rising. And though I always say I'm a run coach, not a life coach, but we're never really talking about the running. All of a sudden, we weren't talking about the running at all. We were firmly and fully in territory that I'm not qualified to navigate. That hit a fever pitch this year when I fell into yet another territory that I'm not qualified to navigate. And that happened when we decided the mask mandate came down. And I looked at some of my employees who are women of color and said, is that mask mandate making you safer? I'm going to guess no, because you live in Virginia where it's illegal to cover your face, right? And that led to a podcast that was released 2 days after Ahmaud Arbery became a household name. And then when George Floyd was so ruthlessly murdered in such a public way, I knew at that moment that I've got to keep leaning in. I don't know how to be true to any of the things that I say I am or who I want to be or what I want this company to become. How is it a safe space if I'm a dangerous person? If I'm the person who now says, for the sake of the company, I'm not going to say anything, when for my whole life I've been that person that said it no matter what. I couldn't look any of my employees in the eye and say, this company is more important than you. And I never will. So here we are, yet another week where it feels like we're ready to talk about the running. Oh, except for this pandemic thing that's taken all the races off the calendar, and it's getting scary to go outside again. When's it going to be normal again? I don't know either. I think the odds of things getting normal a whole lot sooner just went up considerably, but only from a pandemic and maybe an economic recession perspective. The danger that we spoke about in that podcast back in March is still very, very present. Employees of mine, transgender individuals, non-binary individuals, women of color, they're no safer now than they were in March of 2020, 2016, 1986, 1666, to be perfectly honest. I don't know what's coming next. I don't pretend to. What I do know is that my biggest fear is exactly this phrase. It's over, right? Ugh, why are you still talking about this, MK? What are you doing? You know you don't have to do this anymore. You know it's over, right? It isn't over until Coach Nakia and Coach Levy, until my sponsored athletes, Tyler and Cade and Nakia, are all as safe outdoors as I am most of the time. And to be perfectly honest, it's not over until I am as safe outdoors as my big, white, heteronormative husband is. We got a long way to go in leveling the playing field and making a safe space for all bodies who want to move. But we're not going to get there if I say this ever. I am hopeful, though, that we're going to be at a period where I can focus more on the business than I have been since July. I'd like to thank everyone who has stuck by me and stuck with this throughout. I would like to thank the marketing person who has not quit. Yes, I'm going to get around to your email tonight. I made space to do that, but I had to drink a lot yesterday. And then I had to sleep it off last night, this morning. I'm sure a lot of people can say the same thing. So here we are. It's just beginning. We're not done. If you read White Fragility over the summer, if you joined a book club trying to understand systemic racism, I am begging you right now, begging you, do not lean into that white fragility by speaking this phrase, by saying, oh, I'm done, by feeling relief. Because you know who doesn't feel relief right now? Marginalized individuals who are going to have to deal with this president until January the 20th, while everyone says, but it's going to be okay real soon, while their lives are still very much under attack. Those same marginalized people are going to feel it on January 21st when we have a brand new administration in, an administration who has promised to increase police budgets, that are being told by people it's going to be okay, by people who are not showing up to city council meetings and demanding that the mayor defund the police and reallocate non-emergency resources as a start to programs like the STAR program in Denver, which is what I do, by the way, every single Monday night and Wednesday morning. And that's not going to change. I'm still protest mom. I'm Coach MK2. I'm hopeful that going forward, what I will have is a better balance between the two while we work towards the equity that all of my runners deserve. And I promise you, I know it's not over. But I promise the rest of you who are feeling really uncomfortable right now and who are ready for this to be over and for me to be Coach MK to you again, it's only beginning. You are still coached. You are still loved. And if you are still standing at this point in the year, I promise you, you are winning at life. If you're one of those marginalized individuals who knows exactly what I'm talking about, between here and January the 20th and how nothing will really be different on January 21st, if anything, a whole bunch of people who really, really cared will now be indifferent, using this phrase, you know I'm still going to be with you. I see you. I can't look away, and I don't intend to start. Now, with that said, check comment. Coach, I'm hoping that now we can really dig in and do the work. It's not over. Moving forward, I'm grateful to be able to do even more. That's my daily mantra. I like that. What more can I do today to lift up others, to actively be anti-racist, to be true to myself? Honestly, that's a tough call, and it depends on where you are, because being anti-racist really operates on a hyper-local level. It's more, I don't have a Black Lives Matter sign in my yard. I don't have a shirt. The shirt I did just purchase, I'll see if Aaron, you're watching, you can find the link. It says defund and has a beautiful, elaborate description of what defund means. It means to divert and reallocate resources from the police budget, which is 50% of Denver's budget, into community resources and organizers who are doing the work, which includes, but is not limited to, working with the unhoused, working with addicts, and working with the mentally ill, non-emergency type of services that require immediate need. Right now, the police serves all of them. So the most actively anti-racist thing you could possibly do, in my opinion, right now, because these are things Joe Biden and Kamala can't touch. What they can do is promise the police union, we're not going to come in and do anything too crazy or too sweeping that's going to, get rid of policing as we know it, which is exactly what progressives, leftists, I think of myself as a leftist, not a progressive, leftists like me have been screaming for a really long time. It's what Black people have been screaming for. Black women, Black mothers have been screaming for a really long time. So it doesn't mean it's going to happen in stages. It's not like we fire all police and send them all to hell. It never did. It just means we're taking the work off their plate that they're not qualified to do, the stuff that they don't want to do, and put them back in the business of solving crime. And every time, and get rid of community neighborhood watches where people say, I see a really sketchy looking person. And what they mean is, I see a Black person who doesn't belong here. And all the next thing you know, that Black person shot. That's what happened to a boy named Elijah McClain. So we just want less death, less needless death. We, it's a pretty clear ask, and it's not really an unreasonable one. So if I were to say what's something you can do to be anti-racist, it's doing the work on a local level that Joe Biden and Kamala will never be able to touch. And that's pressing your own city council and your own mayor into saying, hey, I have a few Black friends, and I understand that their existence is different than mine, and that's not okay with me. That's not the country I want to live in. I do not, the taxes that I pay, and I gladly pay them, are an investment that I make in the country I want to live in, the greatest country in the world, and you are wasting my tax dollars by putting my Black friends, my friends of color, my trans friends, my non-binary friends, you're putting them all at risk, and that must stop. And this is where we're going to start. Defunding the police sounds really scary, but I promise it's a process. All we're trying to take right now is $300,000 out of one part of the budget to create sharps and trash collection for the unhoused during the winter in another. Because every time they're swept, they scatter through the city and sleep in the alleyways behind our houses. And especially during a pandemic, it's not safer for them or for us or for my children. So that is what I would recommend. Really, we're going to have to get active on a local level, because having the shirt and having the sign doesn't do anything. It's performative. It was a good start in increasing awareness of this problem, but we're past that point now, and we need to get to the point where Black people are not dying at the hands of police anymore. So to be anti-racist, you have to do things to dismantle racism where you are. That can start with advocating to get the police officers, resource officers, I think they call them now, SROs, out of your school, because that's part of the school to prison pipeline that Ava DuVernay has warned us about over and over. There are lots of good documentaries about that, but you can actually do it on the PTA level. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. You've heard me say this before, and it's so true. You've got way more power than you think you do. But there's always more that we can do. Rather than get overwhelmed with all that you're not doing, find the one thing you can touch and don't stop pushing. One step at a time. You would never recommend everyone jump off the deep end like I did this summer. But it wasn't my first foray into it. I just didn't know, and I still don't know how to level back. Yeah, focus on the things you can do in your town. That's really, honestly, I mean, if Coach Nakia is watching, Coach Levy, if you guys want to come in or join this and say anything, feel free, throw it in the comments. Or if you want to come on and speak, this platform is yours whenever you want it. I'm demanding that you do emotional labor. What I will do is amplify your voice if ever you feel the need to speak. So yeah, there's a lot you can do in your town. There's a whole lot that all of us can do. Why not do it? Or just find one thing and do it well and do it consistently. I'll be the first to tell you, in Walla Moms, I don't do very much with the unhoused. I will go to city council and advocate for them, but I have a big old heart, and it's soft as melted butter. And I cannot handle the one-on-one direct work with the unhoused that a lot of my counterparts do multiple times each week. It tears me to pieces, and it triggers me on multiple levels simultaneously. I hate that it exists, and I would rather go put on the suit and scream at city council and write donations to big old checks to any leftist who wants to run against them and push these policies. I would rather do that every day of the week than have to do the work that the other Walla Moms do. And there are times I feel guilty about that, but the work I'm doing is going to ensure, hopefully in my lifetime, that what they're doing, the work that I can't do, the work that I'm too soft to do, will no longer be needed in my lifetime. So that is kind of how I see it. All lanes are valid and equally necessary. Don't demean yours. And I truly have to remind myself of that a lot too. Like, that my lane is important. This is necessary. These people don't want to go yell at city council. City council's boring unless you're me and you're a total jackass. And I'll be the first to, I'm a jackass, y'all. I ride these people like a horse in a saddle. I'm like, oh, wait. Oh, you decided to have coffee with cops? Are Black people invited? What measures are you taking to make sure your Black constituents are going to be safe at this coffee with cops event? So are we going to talk about, do you plan to have a staging area behind in case any protesters show up at the event? If I've been protesting before, are you going to take photos in my face and then go run it through the system and see if there's a warrant for my arrest like you've been doing at the protests illegally? That's what I do. I mean, I'm not wrong in the things that I say, but I'm always going to be that person pushing the envelope, using my privilege in this way, saying the things that others can't because there will be fewer penalties for me. Frankly, with the level of economic privilege that my husband and I enjoy, I'm able to have a business and not worry about it too much because it doesn't put food on our table during this time. But also, I don't have to worry about the things I say. I'm ensconced in so much privilege, it is really hard for any of these people to shut me up. So why would I stop? Why would I stop? That might not be what you do. That's not your thing. It's not many people's thing. But that is what I bring to the table. It's an important thing. I get these conversations going and I can keep them going. And they know if they don't make me happy that I'm going to keep showing up and saying this. So we've had some really interesting wins in places I never saw coming that I do not think are 100% me at all. But I have to wonder, is the fact that I'm showing up and I'm yelling a part of it? Because no one was paying attention before I started showing up and started yelling. And if I'm not there calling them out and yelling, will anyone else do it? So far, I haven't been able to trust them to. So with that, I really like yelling at city council. I love cursing at them. I love taking all the aggression and all my anger about 2020 and the frustration I see and my broken heart from the sweeps and just telling them exactly what I think of it on Mondays and then Wednesdays. It's like two really cathartic releases. Guys, and it's funded by your tax dollars. They are paid to sit there and take it. It is your civic duty to share your opinion with them. Engage more than once every 4 years. God, take advantage of it. Go cuss out your council person. Why not? I really don't understand why I wasn't doing it sooner, to be perfectly honest. So maybe that isn't you. Maybe you don't want to say, hey, this is what the budget says, everybody. This is what Mayor Hancock's counting on. I literally say that. That's a banner that I used when they had the budget announcement. One council member, a white man, told a woman of color, also council member who I admire a lot, to raise her hand that she was being inappropriate. So, of course, I have to have this running all the time. Be like, in case you've forgotten, this is Paul Cashman. Polly K is the guy who told Kenzie to raise her hand. What's he going to have to say on SB 2217 today? And because I remember these things because I get so angry, I could show up $300,000 for trash service for our currently unhoused neighbors so that we are no longer living at the edge of a public health mess. Okay. Maybe we could take that from this budget here, the $3.5 million for Civic Center, Convention Center operations, since the pandemic's getting worse, y'all, and we're probably not going to have conventions next year. Reckon we could do that. So this is what I do. I show up and I'm the worst. This is what the budget says. It says, F you unhoused people. I mean, guys, I have a whole lot of fun with it. So I tell you that to tell you this. I can find a way to make this enjoyable. I promise you can too. But what does this have to do with Reading? Absolutely nothing. Except that I'm a run coach, not a life coach. This is where life has taken me recently. Life has taken all of us in a weird destination recently. I think there will be a semblance of normalcy coming back eventually, but there's going to be this long holding pattern where you are really going to need to get out of the house because we're going back into lockdown. You're going to need to worry a little bit or just think about movement for its own sake, right? Because I'm pretty sure my kids are not going to be at school anymore starting next week. They haven't announced it yet, but I know it's coming. It has to be. All of our hospitals are at capacity. And I know this because I heard it in the city council meeting. Denver Health was begging for additional funding. They were begging for additional beds. So if that was happening last week, I can't imagine next week's going to be a whole lot better. So to brace myself for this, I started digging through my winter clothes. I've started because it's hard and it's dark, y'all. It is really dark. And I'm like, how am I supposed to go for a run? It is dark. It is cold as balls. My bed is warm. Oh my God. So I've played games with myself. I've tried to remind myself, get out now, because in a couple of weeks, I'm not going to have the luxury to just go for a run whenever I want between the hours of 9 and 3. I'm going to have kids at home needing mom to fix things and turn on their computers and turn off their computers and open up the tabs and send the emails, because they are really, really good at electronics and technology. Unless there's an assignment they don't want to do, then they don't know how to use that big machine at all. Yep. Is he really? That'd be awesome. Well, hopefully the mayor needs to remember that we just passed 2G Yay! City charter change 2G, which means we can ask for budgetary changes and budget amendments all year long, which means I had now officially have no reason to stay home at Monday nights, especially if COVID's getting worse and I got nowhere else to go. But city council. Yeehaw! So we're going to move through to my favorite part of the week. Ask away. We're going to start with the weekly wins, and then we're going to take the questions from my runners in the 3 programs that the Fitness Protection Program has to offer. We're going to start with the questions in Build and Rebuild. Build is a program for brand new runners or runners who are just new to the MK experience. Rebuild is a program for runners who have been sidetracked and are returning to running after any period off, be it 6 months or 16 years. We don't really care. If you have ever at any point, we're just not going to treat you like a new kid on the block because we know you've been here before. It's the same program, 2 separate communities, 2 separate coaching approaches. And then we're going to take questions finally from clients in our Maintain program. Maintain was designed for runners with a modicum of fitness that they would like to maintain, so you don't like finish the marathon and then say, well, I don't really feel like running another marathon right now. And then you do nothing until the next marathon cycle and you lose all your fitness. Yeah, Maintain is for people who just want to keep going year round, and you have the option to race when a race comes up that's on your calendar, but otherwise we're staying motivated, we are moving, we're not adding pressure at any point, artificial pressure that we don't need. We're just going to be celebrating the work that we do, not worrying about the work that we don't do. I haven't run in the past 4 days, y'all. I'm still a runner. I'm still here. I'm not behind, and it's okay. Other programs usually have you thinking from that perspective. I do this as written, or I'm throwing away money. I do this as written, or I'm behind. No one's ever behind here. You're exactly where you need to be. You're an adult. Every decision you've ever made is the right one, and it brought you here to me. Thank you for making those choices. So here we go, starting off with the weekly wins. Final note, this is being broadcast to YouTube and Twitter, but this will be the last time I'll be sharing this particular broadcast with Twitter. Y'all still get my city council live streams. But I'll be broadcasting this to YouTube and in a closed channel for clients only. The feed for the podcast, this will still be released in audio form only, and that'll be coming in the podcast feed for Running Life, the Fitness Protection Podcast, available on iTunes, CastBox, or your favorite podcast player. But the interactive portion is going to be restricted to clients only. Here we go. So with the weekly wins in Rebuild, Brenda Haskell had a great 6-mile run on a local rail trail. Those sound neat. I don't know if we have those. I know we have in Tennessee. I don't think we have any in Colorado, but please, if you're going to take a picture, if you're going to run on a trail, take pictures. It's half the reason you're out there, man. It's pretty. Dr. Loeffler is running again. Yay! Ugh, I hope that's because you have a little more time on your hands because Maine is more contained than we are right now. Oof. Where you are never far from my thoughts, Dr. Loeffler. She had an easy, comforting, but still challenging avocado toast run. Avocado toast is one of my favorite workouts. She said it was wonderful, and it feels great to be back. We are thrilled to have you here with us, and we're glad you're back too. Allison Melly got up and ran in the dark and cold. I'm sorry, that's another doctor. Dr. Melly, tenured professor at University of Maryland. Excited for you. I'm still excited for you. Allison Melly got up and ran in the dark and cold because it was the only time she could go. As she was leaving, she said to herself over and over, I want to run outside this winter. If I can do today 46 degrees, I can keep going colder. Was peeling off layers as I went. I can do this. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. And because you did, I might just do that later tonight. Nope, I'll probably do it tomorrow though. We're getting a cold snap and it's supposed to snow here in Denver. So what I'm doing after this is I'm taking more stuff to the unhoused. Erin White had some hill success and conquered 2 hills she was previously unable to finish. That is amazing. I tell you what, when it comes to running up hills, you get more out of it when you go more slowly. And I know for a lot of runners that feels counterintuitive because we're used to doing hill sprints or sprinting downhill to get that artificial leg turnover. And both are really good workouts. But if you're just trying to maintain cardiovascular fitness or build a little bit more fitness, not necessarily push through a breakthrough, slowing down while you go up the hill is a great way to do it because you're spending more time on the hill. That's more resistance. That's more better. I've said it before, if you really want to get your money's worth out of, say, a stair workout, put it on the lowest possible setting and go real slow. You're going to have crappy form when you go really quickly, and you're not going to be engaging the muscles you need to engage. When you go slowly, you got no choice. You better have great form. Otherwise, you're going to be hunching your back over, and you're going to look and say, you're going to see yourself in the mirror in the gym, and it's going to feel awkward. It's the same thing on the road. When you go really slowly, you can focus on form. You can focus on using the muscles that you need to be using, and you're going to get way more out of it. So congratulations, Aaron, on learning that lesson and conquering all kinds of good things. In Maintain, Trisha Thorne ran 5 miles for the first time since August. That is huge. I did that myself the other day, Trisha. I know how good that feels. Congratulations. Karina Terry ran the half marathon she was signed up for. That's 2 half marathons you have found, Karina Terry. And is that another one in Utah? Amazing. Congratulations. How many people were in it? I need details. I need stats. I might even need a photo. Were you able to socially distance? Were you worried at all? Was anyone else worried? This is really, people give you funny looks here in Denver if you get out your car and don't already have your mask on. Even if you're just reaching for it and it's over one ear, they're like, ah! So I'm visualizing what's happening in Utah right now. Utah, the land of the hardcore runners. Runners are never more hardcore than in that state, y'all. So I need to know more about these halves that you found. So she ran the half marathon that she was signed up for with a slightly varied route. She was sad that the race was canceled, but it turned out even better than she thought. She said, I was nervous, but shouldn't have been. It was a beautiful course, and I was even more prepared for this half than the one in August, thanks to you guys and the Fitness Protection Program Maintain. Thank you. Thank you, and I'm really glad to hear that. That's one of the things that we promote in Maintain, man. You don't need a full half marathon training program. You just need to not stop. That's easier to do. Consistency is easier when you're not beating yourself up every time you go out the door, when you're not racing yourself into shin splints, racing every single training run. We slow you down, mellow you out, send you out a lot more frequently than you would probably normally go. And great things happen because this is literally how cardiovascular endurance is built. I'm glad you got to see the fruit of those labors. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Karina. No, that's Dr. Loeffler. You're surging now. I'm so sorry. Oof, well, I'm going to be thinking about you running in the middle of the road. If you're still running in the middle of the road at 4:30 in the morning in small town Maine. I hope you don't run into any moose. That's all I can think of when I think of early morning on cold snowy mornings, and think about all the moose that come out at our Telluride house, and we're like, I'm not going to run when there's mooses out there. They bite real hard. Mooses are bastards. Anyway, things you are really here to hear. Mooses are terrible. They're the worst. All right, so now we're going to move to some questions starting in Rebuild. With the icy rain and snow today already, I'm looking for alternatives to my run when I can't safely or comfortably get outside. We have an exercise bike that I tested out today. I was able to get my heart rate up, do some faster and slower intervals, and generally felt like I got out of it what I do from my runs. However, I'm wondering how this will affect my time and forward motion on my feet since it's a different position and a lot less weight bearing. I still intend to get as much out as possible, but there is a long stretch when I'm inside. Should I supplement the bike with more strength training? Would I be better off just playing some active video games up on my feet, or is it worth it to get a treadmill? It took a lot to build up to my current time, and I don't want to feel like I'm starting back at square one in the spring. Thank you. Okay, so twofold. One, do you have the funds and the space for a treadmill? We have the funds, but we don't have the space. Our house is like 180 years old. So if you can afford it, why not? If you can afford it and you have the space, do it. Seriously, do it. And if I had the space, I'll tell you which one I'd be getting. The Peloton Tread. That is an amazing, smooth ride. Go run on one and you'll see what I'm talking about. I've never felt anything like it underneath my feet. And I shudder to hear the recommendation for a $5,000 treadmill coming out of my mouth. But if I had the money and I had the space, I would want that treadmill in my house. And that is why. It's amazing. There are all kinds of good ones out there. You really get a good used one. What you want, though, is more of a gym model that's going to be more stable. The home models are less heavy because they don't want to do damage to your hardwood floors or your carpets. But at the higher, faster paces, they can shake a lot from side to side. So when you go try them out, make sure you max out some paces a little bit, because if you have it and it shakes or something at faster paces, then you're not going to use it and then you wasted your money. So let's not do that. When it comes, you were absolutely right on the exercise biking. Because what we have to think about when it comes to preparation and training is two parts. One, the muscles and making sure that they're strong enough. And 2, it's the tendons, joints, and the ligaments. And that comes from spending time on your feet, which you will not be doing on a bike so much, even if you're on a Peloton and you're, say, out of the saddle. That phrase, my husband, anyway, don't get me started. I'm hearing that phrase, out of the saddle. It's still not quite the same, because you are not driving forward locomotion with your body's weight on top of your ankles. You have some assist there. So if you have and you like it, sure, we can do a lot with the exercise bike. Start with the bike, and then let's add in a lot more strength training. Absolutely, with the Bosu. We've been kicking around some ideas here at Fitness Protection. Let us know if that's something that would be interesting to you. We could definitely come up with some more strength programs. But yeah, we're going to have to supplement with a lot of strength training, unfortunately. And because it would be weight bearing, you would be on your feet, you'd be barefoot, just like our normal circuits. But we've been thinking about opening up a program called Slow Burn. We were supposed to open it up in October, but it felt like nobody even knew it was October. So if you purchased Slow Burn in the past, and we did not offer it a second time this year like we had planned to, because this year was, oh my God, this year. We're going to honor that. If you already paid for it, we're going to let you roll it over right into the next one. We're still a small enough business, we can do that. But yeah, maybe Slow Burn would be a really good choice for you. I'm thinking the next one I want to open up would be, I'm going to run this by everybody, but I'm thinking January the 1st. Because it feels like people might be a little bit ready for something a little bit sooner, but probably don't want to make a commitment going through the holiday season itself. So Slow Burn would probably be your best option there. But yeah, active video games up on your feet. I need to see these video games that you're playing. There's Dance Dance Revolution. But that was featured in The Kissing Booth 2, which my husband made me watch the other day. We don't have the same taste in movies, y'all. We just don't. He had to explain to me many times what I was saying. But that Dance Dance Revolution, if that is the video game you're talking about, sure, that looks like a great cardio workout, and one I'm not coordinated enough to do at all, even if I was in a movie. So yeah, the best way to not be back at square one is to keep running as much as you can. Treadmill is always best. If that's really out of the cards, don't worry about it too much. On the days that you can't run outside, or that it's not safe to run outside, absolutely stay on the bike and do extra weights, and be prepared with a solid plan B. And don't worry about what you can't do. Focus on what you can do and celebrate that. Because frankly, getting anything done in the winter is a win, most parts of the country. Hi, I've been having trouble getting past the 45-minute mark with my runs. I can get to 45 minutes, okay? Never feels great. But after 45 minutes, the wheels fall off, and I just feel awful. I've not been as consistent as I should over the course of the pandemic. None of us have been. It's all good. My running varies from 1 to 5 days per week, but I was having this issue even before all the craziness of 2020. I'm coming from a background of easily running 1.5 hours on a weekday and 2 to 3 hour long runs, but had knee surgery, ACL reconstruction 2 years ago, and just haven't been able to get back in a groove. I find that after 45 minutes, both my knees and shin hurt. However, my doctor and PT assured me my knee is fine, and I just get exhausted. Any thoughts on how to find my way back? So with the exhaustion, we're gonna separate this into pieces. So with the exhaustion, I'm gonna lean towards a vitamin D, not deficiency, but we could probably boost that a little bit. B12 and ferritin. What runners like to do is go straight to the iron, and that's going to constipate you, and then you're going to drink all this water, and it's not going to feel good. So ferritin is the more easily digestible form. Take it first thing in the morning, and take it with a little something citrusy like orange juice. I put lemon juice in my water, and elderberry juice for that reason, because it helps the ferritin bind to your in your blood. You need it to make it really effective. So that the knee pain that's separate, but let's start with the exhaustion. It's probably that in periods of chronic stress, like all of us have been under chronic anxiety, your body's going to be burning through its vitamin D stores and its B12 stores in order to keep your pituitary gland functioning at a normal level. Without worrying about too much what that means, just say what you're feeling is perfectly normal. And brewer's yeast can go a long way. And I know it doesn't actually taste bad at all. Just throw it in your shake, throw it in your coffee first thing in the morning, sprinkle a little bit on whatever you have for lunch. If it's a sandwich, just throw a little in there. You won't even notice that it's in there. But brewer's yeast is going to be one of the fastest ways to get back to nutritional yeast, brewer's yeast or nutritional yeast. I prefer nutritional yeast to brewer's yeast because I'm celiac. But I tell you that to tell you this, that is going to go a long way towards getting you back to normal feeling energy levels than just about anything else. Most women are deficient in iron. So when it comes to the knee pain itself, I would have to wonder, as your PT said anything about your glutes not firing, I would focus a little bit more on whatever they told you to do, if that has to do with how much support your knees are getting from your glutes, because where I tend to go with this is that if you are sort of pushing your body to do something that's not really ready to do just yet, and it might not be since the surgery, we might still be in the building back phase. This could be a function as well or a factor as well of not having enough ferritin in your system. But to that end, if those muscles are fatiguing really quickly and giving out, then you're going to be overstriding a little bit. That's going to be putting pressure on your knees and your shins. So the final piece there would be the shoes. I was running on a pair of really busted shoes because I just didn't realize. I'm like, oh, I've been running in these since March. No wonder they feel terrible, because therefore most of the summer I was running way more than I would in a good year. So it's because it was the only way I got out of the house. And Pokemon Go, I would take like 2-hour-long runs on a Monday. And then again on a Thursday. So yeah, my shoes were pretty busted. Maybe yours are too. Even though you haven't been logging the miles you have in the past, take a look there. That could be part of what's contributing to what's going on with your shins. So the energy is the ferritin. The shins might be the shoes, but they also might be a lack of strength. I would start kind of in those three places and keep moving forward, because your PT, who can see you and touch you, is more able to diagnose than I am at a distance. But the final thing I would say here is I know it sounds pithy. Don't worry about it. You are not, and it specifically, I mean, you're not so broken you can't be fixed. You are not, this is not your new normal. This is your November 2020. November 2020, it's dark, it is cold, and you're a little iron deprived, probably vitamin D deprived, depending on whether or not you've seen the sun lately. There's a bit going on. With a little bit of self-care, adding some supplements to your routine can go a really long way. Making sure that you get a little more sunlight each day, or getting a sun lamp can go a really long way. You'd be surprised. It has been transformative. My husband and his energy levels. We have a sun lamp now in our bedroom that wakes us up and helps wind him down as we get ready for bed. And those are super helpful. And then finally, let's see if just maybe any of that is connected to the knee pain as well. If we start slow burn up, I would put you in there, or I would invite you to come in there. And if you are waiting for slow burn, if you're mad at me that we haven't done it yet, let me know. We do want to get that started, and we're thinking January the 1st, but I will have more information now that I feel like we're in a place where we can start looking forward and can start making some plans for next year. I feel like everybody was kind of waiting to exhale until the election. And now that piece is out of the way and we know what's going to happen theoretically there, maybe we can do some business development planning too. And top of the list is slow burn. So there you are. Okay. Now moving to the questions in Maintain. So in final note, just because you can't go beyond 45 minutes, to my previous question, just because you can't yet go beyond 45 minutes, again, doesn't mean you won't get there. If you go back and listen to some of the older podcasts, I was in the same place after Violet was born. There was something about the 45-minute mark I would just wipe out for months and months and months and months and months. And then finally, I got it up to like 80 minutes, and then I would poop out again for months and months and months. And that was the iron deficiency. So it's a much bigger deal than we make it out to be. And if Dr. Lufler is still here, she could probably wax more poetically about it than I can. So awesome. Okay. Thank you. Survey says we will continue. Slow burn. And if you've already paid for it and weren't able to use it last year, obviously we're not going to make you pay for it again, even though we desperately need the money right now. God, it's been a rough year, y'all. Okay. I'd like to add an intense boxing workout to my week. I've been using Thursdays for extra strength and lifting weights. What day would you suggest I do boxing, and should I change anything about the runs and Maintain? Thanks for everything. So if you want to add, I'm all about stacking the intense workouts. So if this sounds fine to me, do you really need intense runs right now? I'm like, not that avocado toast is intense, it isn't. But how about on Monday, you just like make Monday and Wednesday a 30 to 60 minute avocado toast or easy effort run, and then add your intense boxing workout there. Or since you do them on Tuesday, Thursday, I would really hesitate to do it on Saturday with your long run. That could be just a little bit too much. So but we could, so we have several options. One, we could shift your entire schedule forward one day, which would change effectively the day of your long run to make it easier to stack your boxing workouts. Number two, we could just get rid of all the hard runs and let you enjoy the hard boxing workout for the time being. That way you're not carrying fatigue from a hard effort run into a hard boxing session. And we don't have to change your boxing schedule as is. That's another option. So there are a lot of ways we could go about it, but what are the available options, I guess, in the timing for boxing? And then let's kind of take it from there. Boxing, by the way, really? Boxing. It's hard. It's hard and that hurts. You y'all are crazy. I love y'all. You're crazy. Whew, I watched somebody kick. It does a Muay Thai person kick a, whatever you call it, sandbag. And I was just like, oh, that doesn't look fun to me. No, thank you. So respect and props for anyone doing boxing. So those, if you want a little more clarity or want to run through the options, feel free to tag me in the Facebook groups, and I'm happy to return to this question during the week. Okay, so why does my right glute med and hamstring always feel tight and the left doesn't? This is not a new issue, but it seems to get better and then worse again. I haven't run much in the last couple months, but started weight training slowly while I could in a gym. While lifting, I'm still doing very low weights with the intent of simply building overall strength. I don't feel imbalanced or that one leg is straining or putting in more than the other. But when I do go to run, the leg feels tight and almost like a minor strain. Any ideas? Should I try to work more on that side or just continue to build all over strength? We have gone back into a lockdown, so I'm not sure if I can get to a PT or massage therapist for another month. So any suggestions for home-based work would be awesome. Thanks, Coach. Hi, Christy. I missed you. Oh my gosh, I miss you so much. Thank you. Okay, so it is not unusual at all for humans to have, because we're not perfectly symmetrical. We are not robots. So it is not unusual for one side to be a little bit stronger than the other. But what you just described honestly feels like it's coming from your pelvic floor. And, you know, who wants to play with that? Yay! No, I feel you. So rather than working on the side that's tight, I would focus more on releasing the side that's tight. Focus more on the foam rolling and focus more on maybe not the stretching, because the stretching doesn't necessarily mobilize the muscles or release the tension that's pulling on the tendons and the ligaments that are supported by those muscles. So what I would, and because we really don't want to strain those muscles, what I would recommend, and good on you for the weight training is good. I would keep it balanced as much as you possibly can. If wherever you're doing the weights, have someone watch you while you do it to see if you're overcompensating a little bit on one side. And then do, like, if you can, if you're doing like rows, do it on one leg, reduce the weights by a whole lot and do that row with on your left leg while balancing your right foot off the ground, and then switch, and then see. You'll be able to identify the weak points a lot more quickly just by doing it one leg at a time and then doing it two legs together. That's generally how I would kind of approach it. But if your hamstring is tight, again, we don't mess with hamstrings. That's more of a functional thing going on. And again, that's why I think it's coming from your pelvic floor. So if you're going back into lockdown, if you can see anyone before that happens, great, let's do it. If you're like, absolutely not, no one's touching that, I'm not talking about thinking about it, respect. Then let's just focus on lying on the ground and doing pelvic tilts. That's where you have you're on the ground with your back against your shoulders against the ground and your knees up, almost like you're going to go into a bridge position, and then press the small of your back to the ground and then go back into neutral. Doing that several times for 30 to 60 seconds, that's going to fire up your TVA. And with that functioning properly, that's going to take a lot of pressure off of your pelvic floor and hopefully relieve at least a little bit of what's going on with your glute and your hamstring. So more is not necessarily going to be better in this type of scenario unless we're talking about more foam rolling. Less is always going to be more here. Here we go. So yay, that's it. That's all the questions we have for this week, and we are right on time. You are coached. You are loved. And hey, I get it. Don't feel guilty if you were in a place where you heard what I said in the beginning. Like, I'm not the perfect anything, and I don't pretend to be or try to be. I just try to be a little bit better each day and respectful of the fact that I can walk away from all of this and is my privilege. Being able to say to somebody, hey, do we really have to talk about this? That's a privilege. And shutting down a conversation because you think it's unpleasant, even if it's a conversation that's about someone else's humanity and their legitimate fears, that's a privilege too. And that's not saying you have to be the receptacle for the fear of every person around you. At the same time, it's not our place to invalidate it either. This fight is nowhere near done. Nowhere near. We got such a long way to go. And this is a global fight, y'all. So while we're pushing, you need to find a way to stay sane, a way to celebrate yourself, focusing on what you can do and not letting yourself get too overwhelmed by the problems out there that you are not able to solve all at once. We're in this for the long haul, y'all. I'm so tired of that metaphor where people are like, life's a marathon. The pandemic's a marathon. I'm like, you don't fucking know what a marathon is. We plan for marathons. We train for marathons. You're never totally prepared, but you have an idea of what you're getting into. We didn't see this coming. We didn't stop. That's another thing. You can quit a marathon if it isn't going well. And I will tell you to do that. DNF and DNS, whoop, whoop. Why would you keep going if you know it's a disaster and it's already terrible? Like, why? And I know some people choose to, and I respect that, but I DNF all the time, saying, nope, it's not happening today. And my knee hurts. I'm done. I'm going home. I'm not going to try to force something if I know I'm not going to like the result. This is nothing like that. There's no DNFing the pandemic. There's no DNSing if you're wandering through this world as a Black person. There's no opting out of a lot of things around us. So to that end, do whatever you need to do to get through the day. Acknowledge and focus on the self-care aspect too. And for a lot of people, self-care has been getting out of social media. Cool. I get that. But that too is a privilege. As long as you're aware of what you're doing and that your ability to do it is something not everyone can afford to do, then that might be the only anti-racist thing that you're able to do between now and January the 20th. Don't make this about you. Make it about the movement if you're going to make it happen at all. From here till then, I'm here to support and coach and love every single one of you. I'm going to advocate for, my sponsored athletes. We started that program because we wanted non-traditional bodies and legitimize their participation in this sport to literally pay for that space and reserve their space every time they want to show up. And I don't have any intention of stopping that. I'm going to be advocating for all of you always. That's my job. That's my role. From protest mom out there to running coaching here. It's making the safe space for you to be whoever it is you are and celebrate everything that you've become. And I have no intention of stopping that work. Thank you for sticking with me through it all. I am hopeful that this is the last conversation of this sort that we'll have to have for a while, but it's getting dark and I still have to put the bear traps around my house because that's another problem that's not going away anytime soon, white supremacist. And if you need context thinking, is this done? Is it over? It ain't over till I no longer need those bear traps in Nakia and I can go for a run together at 3 a.m. in a fancy neighborhood without having to worry about somebody calling the cops or what would happen if someone were to call the cops. Between now and then, faithfully yours. I'll see you tomorrow.